was the 21,000.
Right, but we're not even close to that yet.
Right, but we would not, once we hit that, we would not be able to. I think the thing that we try and do is if we have this other one coming up, we have to put them in the newspaper. What am I
Yeah,
gonna
we have
say?
to advertise
Post-
it. The reason this was brought forward now was because we were talking about amending the budget
So we try to lump
with the
this
140
together, so
to
it's
pay
less
for 130,
expensive.
whatever. And if we have to amend the budget, once we do that, we have to post in the newspaper and everything else. It's an ordinance, we have to publish it. And if we're amending the budget already, we can do it all at once. It's less publishing fees and everything else. That was one of the primary reasons to bring it up. I don't necessarily need the money, if you will, to be spent next month.
I understand what you're saying, but it seems like you're taking a chunk of money and putting it aside that we're only gonna use for legal fees. And I'm almost afraid that there's no incentive to sit there and say, gee, I really don't wanna go through that. But then when you have that money sitting there, say, well, it's in the budget, we can do that. It makes it easy to spend.
It does, in that respect, I understand that, but when you're talking about outside services, I'd have to be looking for something for the attorney to do. If you were asking me if it was in a different area that said, on roads or in general funds, and hey, I just want to go out and buy new office furniture that's super plush, I could see that, but since this is restricted for one line item, I'd actually have to figure out, all in honesty, how to go out and what could I get him to do. I'd be looking for something for him to do in that respect. Principally speaking, you're right. If the money's there, it's like, well, we can spend it. But with contracted services and things like that, it's a little bit different. For professional services, that's probably a better way. I'd have to be looking for him to something to do. I mean, if it was contracted services for, Len Rigler and Sons, I can assure you, which is the blacktopping company we use. We can find a way, yeah, we'll use it all up.
And if they separate, well, I mean, again, the only reason and I was at the last meeting, I assume the reason you attach this is because you want to go after paying this building, that loan off. Is that kind of why you
I just
are
attached
going
it.
to change it now for legal fees, or?
I think that Jim had asked that it be separated, and I think that somebody else did, so we were just gonna separate it. Initially, I just wanted to make it one publication, so we didn't have to pay
Right.
twice for publishing, because we get right through the codes.
I understood that, but it still seems weird,
I
A
was
lot
like
of people would not understand that.
Right.
Because I think you mentioned in the past how much it costs to publish one, so I knew that.
Yeah.
But had everybody not known that, it would look like just lumping stuff together.
Right. No, but that, yeah, again, I have money. I'm not ready to stop running the city, if you will, from a legal standpoint, but it was just like, why do we want to spend another $300 to $500 in 2 or 3 months if we don't have to? That was my thought. I'm not hung up if we don't, and as I told Jim a couple times, I'm not hung up if you want to make it 40,000 or 35. But it's inevitable we're going to need money in that account. 21,000, I can assure you, will not make it to the end of the year, just looking at how we're spending it on general items.
But you expect that to tail off a little bit.
I do. Overall, I really do. I think, compared to the way I spent about 3.5, 4 hours trying to put that spreadsheet together the other day, going through every legal bill, every line item and everything else. I'd love to be able to have the time to go back last year and do that same thing each month. Unfortunately, I don't have that kind of time, because I would feel real comfortable saying that it has already started tapering down. I feel like we are on a downhill with our legal bills.
Well, council rarely uses the attorney. I mean,
Well-
council people, sometimes I saw a few calls on there, but not,
For 3.5 months,
very rare.
3.5 months, the other column, I think, Jim, I think you might have updated. The other column, which included the council fees, was $1,200.
Yeah.
And the other column is miscellaneous, maybe attorney had a consultation with one of his to, you know what I mean? But for 3.5 months, $1,200 for that column miscellaneous. I would think it probably was $400, $500 for council.
Yeah.
I mean,
Somebody mentioned earlier that like open records, you have to have an attorney do that? Why is that? I don't
Well,
understand.
I think, am I not mistaken, Mayor, I think our city clerk puts a lot of it together, but the attorney reviews it. The attorney reviews anything like that, because You just want to be sure it's done right and legal, so.
Wouldn't there be categories there that could just go out that, you know?
I might have already, you might
Just
have already
curious.
said this,
I
but
don't think so.
why was there only 21,000 to begin with? Why didn't you kind of prepare
I tried.
more in the beginning?
That's my number.
Jim changed it.
The retainer was $1,750, times 12 is $21,000.
He would like to work off the retainer first.
I wanted this.
Yeah.
That's what I wanted, because as a council person, I didn't know what we were spending $50,000 on, and I have to know. That's what I wanted, and I got it. So at this point, I don't think he's out there trying to find things for them to do. That wasn't the point. The point is, I didn't know what they were doing, because we don't get the, and if we do get the bills, they're redacted. And I understand why.
That's-
But I need to know what we're spending money on. That's my job. So that's what I wanted.
And at one point, just with open records, if I can follow up, legal bills were not redacted. There was more information in them in the past. Could be names, it could be talk about a little bit of a lawsuit, whatever, for a
Social security
description.
numbers or something like that.
Whatever, for description. We started receiving several open records requests for the legal bills, so the attorney, when redacting anything, has to give a explanation every time something's redacted before we can send it out. That's why you'll see a huge number on open records right now. We have since figured out, and this attorney has, to be able to say, okay, let's start giving the information they need to at least understand, yes, this is what we were doing, without giving any more detailed information. You don't see anything about a lawsuit or anything like that. I mean, there's enough information for us, but we don't have to go back and redact every legal bill now. That was a big chunk of what started the open records. Every time.
So there are some records you could give out without consulting if you fit in a certain category or not?
I'll always send them to the city attorney and say, here, just look at it, just to make sure that we're not gonna mess up something, because at one time, before the new city attorney came on board, there was documents that were requested and were being sent out until I stopped them. And when I stopped them, come to find out, there were bank account numbers, there were social security numbers, and I said, before it was sent out, because it would, had to do with another department. And he's like, nope, send him to the city attorney, and it was, just to look at it. It takes him 15 minutes to glance over them, and it's a balance and check to make sure it keeps us out of legal hot water. Most of the time, it's not bad. They're a couple pages. Once in a while, we have a couple big ones. They're 50, 60, 70 pages long, and I'm sure it takes a few minutes. But again, the open records have started coming down from a perspective of cost, from an attorney standpoint.
Anything else on that? I mean, I think we'll just tell the council that we're not all of one mind, and it's a council decision. So they'll have to decide, you know, does it make sense, does it not make sense, and what is the right amount? One last thing, and again, normally we just open it up at the end of these meetings, but because this is designated a special meeting, we cannot do that. I'll be around if you have any comments or questions afterwards, but we will have a copy, we will have a final audit report, and it will be delivered in November. It will not be delivered next Wednesday because there were several questions that we need to get details on.
Didn't want to rush into them, to be honest with you. We probably could have made it happen, but in fairness to John Chamberlain, who's probably got 10 other cities he's trying to wrap up as well, let's go through it and make sure we take care of it, you know, straightforward and right the first time.
Typically, we have the finance committee vet this before it goes to council to make sure that we understand it and we agree with it. I will, if we can get an audit report that is further along, I will try to get a special meeting together for the sole purpose of discussing this, and we'll try to get John Chamberlain back here. Probably be a 15-minute, half an hour meeting. But I think if you have any interest in seeing this thing, what I'd like to do is, if you don't mind, send me an email telling me you want to see this thing, and I will email it to you before we have the meeting so that you have time to look at it and prepare questions if that's what you want to do. Okay? And since this is a special meeting and we can't go into anything else, we need to adjourn the meeting, And if anybody has any comments or questions, I'll hang around. So thank you very much for coming, appreciate it, and good night. Turn it off, Tom.